Hello. I'm guessing you found me today because you're interested in finding out what are the best essential oils to use for eczema. You're not the only person who wants to know. I had a message of a lady called Tina Edwards who reads my books very regularly, and she was worried about one of her friends, Penny, who has terrible eczema on her hands apparently. Very, very painful eczema. And Penny and Tina, yeah, I get it. I'm an eczema girl myself, and I get very sick of it. I have summers completely eczema free, but then as soon as the winter comes, then I put my warm tights on, and they're just straight away I want to rip my legs off. The skin gets so inflamed. So I have a very quick system to be able to help you. So there's two carrier oils first that I would recommend to you, which are hemp seed oil, not hemp oil, hemp seed oil, and also calendula. And we're not talking about essential oils here, we're talking about carrier oils, which are come in much bigger bottles. First of all, then macerations, so they're like squashed rather than distilled, and yeah, both of those are absolutely fantastic skin healers. And I have written a book called the Aromatherapy Eczema Treatment, and I wrote this before I discovered hemp seed oil. So hemp seed oil's not in here, but I have to say I get out the bath and smear it on each evening, and so far no outbreaks. In terms of your hands, Penny, I think we probably have to look at what's causing your eczema first of all. There's a lady in town who does acrylic nails, and oh my goodness me, I've never seen anything like her hands. They're completely broken, and it's the acetone that's doing it to her, and she's in this horrible cycle where it's the chemicals she's using every day are causing contact dermatitis and inflaming her skin in a horrible way. And of course she can't just give up her job, so I don't really know until she makes a sort of psychological decision about it. We can manage her symptoms, but we can't obviously alleviate it. And what's interesting, I like this is one of the first books, in fact this is the very first book. This was the idea that started the Secret Healer manuals, of which there are now 20, and I feel very strongly that it is about a house of cards. You can get everything right, and just one small thing like your diet or like something somebody says that triggers you off, everything's going to come falling down. It's completely interrelated with eczema. So we do need to look very carefully at the emotions behind it. But in terms of managing your symptoms, the first thing that I would say to you is, I'm guessing that it's very, very broken. Is that right, Penny? That I'm guessing that's why it's so painful. And there's two oils that I would recommend for that. My mum, who's treated eczema for years and years and years, swears by myrrh. Myrrh oil is a fantastic skin healer, and of course, as we know, the Greeks would take it onto the battlefield to heal the wounds, but also to keep out infection. And it still remains one of the best healers in the world today. I find that if it becomes almost like an abscess or infected, then I kind of go a step past myrrh if I need to, and that's galbanum oil. And we're talking very small amounts. I mean, I always work in 50ml pots, so that's like 2 ounces of cream, and I would use an ointment base. And incidentally, if you struggle to get ointment bases, I don't know if it's easy to get them in the States or not. My mum has a Etsy site called the Apothecary 2. You can always send her a message, and she can send you some ointments, which would be the same ones that I would use. And it's a wax base, and that in itself is actually fantastically soothing. You know, some days I used to, before I discovered the hemp seed oil, I have to say, would go, oh, I'm so sick of this itching, and I would just let it carry on for until I can't do it anymore. And I grabbed the eczema cream and I put it on. Oh my goodness, why didn't I do that ages ago? You know, it's really calming. She uses lavender and chamomile to calm it, but it's as much this wax that seems to go, no more. and squash it down. So a wax base is very, very good. But the main oil that she uses to treat the eczema, in fact there's two, mainly she uses geranium, but she also uses calendula for broken skins, but for the main part geranium. And I have to say that would be, I've never found anything better than the geranium, because it is a wonderful support for the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are the principal glands that send the hormones in the body stress signals, and they send out adrenaline and they send out cortisol. And cortisol in itself is an anti-inflammatory agent, and we always talk about cortisol as if it's a real baddie, and it's not actually. In the body it's supposed to do good things. It only becomes bad if it secretes for too long, and then it kind of turns on its axis and starts sending inflammatory markers back to the body. And we find different people have different weaknesses. So you and I, Penny, we're eczema girls. So it's our skin that does it. But you know, just in the same way as people have bowel problems, people have heart problems, it's their weaknesses. And one of the things that I find is a real telling thing is the skin, and particularly the face, talks about the way we feel about the face we put out to the world, and how we feel about the way that people see us. And I think, Penny, that would be a really interesting kind of project for you to do, to think about, how do I feel about how people see me? And you know, even just saying that out loud, I could tell you that usually when I'm on camera, the eczema goes down, and it's as much to do with me looking at myself and going, well, you've got something interesting to say. You know, when you start to feel down about yourself and you start to feel less confident about what you're putting out, and I always think a really interesting association for eczema in particular is if you start to feel flaky, then your skin starts to dry. And I think it just makes me laugh every time, but it is true. You know, if you think, oh, I'm a bit of a fraud and I didn't do that very well and not very proud of what I just did then, and you know, I bet you have a skin flare up. So yeah, it's worth doing, and I would really recommend getting this book if you haven't already got it. The interesting thing about this book, Penny, is it was written before the rest of the Secret Healer series, and I wrote this first, and then people read it and went, well, that's really interesting for a professional aromatherapist, but I think normal people, average people, would want to know how to heal their eczema. And there's stuff in there that perhaps does have a bit of a step up. So the series is written, so it goes the complete guide, which look at the state of this. It's nice, all broken down the side, but this is a complete guide. So this will tell you about the different essential oils that you're using. And if you haven't come across my books before, look at the size of that. And if you go to Amazon, that's free to download, and that tells you how to use essential oils and which ones to use for different conditions, just as an interesting experiment. Let's have a look what I put for eczema. I might not have written anything, but I think I did, probably did. Yeah. I put geranium and calendula. So it's in the book if you look. But then you and I have just been talking about this connection between the body and the mind. And this book, the second one in the series, The Essential Oils of the Mind, Body, Spirit, talks about that particular connection and how we do have those strange correlations in our mind of, I'm not very happy, and your body goes, oh, I know, let me tell you about it, and starts to ache or starts to itch or get sore, or worse, anxiety, depression, and all of that. It's the same thing, guys. It's just the same thing. And you'll get, everybody's so excited by essential oils. Please don't fall into the trap of thinking it's okay to just suppress that symptom and it will go away. It won't. The symptom, the itching, the soreness will go away, the skin will heal, but I promise you, your body goes, do you know what? You're not listening, and you will get another symptom. And that is where aromatherapy is absolutely fantastic It's helping you see those emotional connections. And of course, the essential oils, everyone's talking about how it alleviates pain, how it's antibacterial. You know what? Big whoop. The doctor can do that. What's interesting is it also goes, do you know what? Let's talk about why you haven't forgiven that, why you don't feel safe, why you don't trust things, why do you think you're a bit worthless in the world? And then you're getting somewhere. And of course, that's not just progress in your eczema, that's progress in life, guys. And that's where essentials are fantastic. It's so much more than that physical level. So after the mind, body, spirit, you might find these two interesting. Are they these two? Yeah. The liver and the professional stress solution. They are certainly not vital to learning about eczema, but I bet you get absolutely hooked, especially thinking about the liver, because that's quintessentially linked to eczema, because it's what is affected by stress. If something's stress related, then I promise you the liver goes, no, I have something to say. And the liver is a big deal in stress related diseases. So I'm going to say to you, get your journal out, work on it for a month, make yourself an ointment. If you can't do an ointment, if you don't want to get in touch with Mum, fair enough, there's a lot of postage to America, but aqueous lotion, just some aqueous lotion from the chemist, E45, if you know, any of those things, just something that will moisturize the skin, or ideally something good that will nourish the skin, which is what an ointment will do. And then you add in your geranium, you add in some lavender and chamomile and some myrrh, or if it's super bad, like it sounds like Penny's is, some galbanum. So how many drops? We are talking in a 50ml pot, in a 2-ounce pot, I would go 5 drops of geranium, 4 drops each of lavender and chamomile, and I would say 3 drops of galbanum or myrrh. Address it for a week. So we're going to use it 5 times a day. So I don't know, morning, you work out how it fits out around your day. And interesting thing, actually, going off topic a second, Penny, is the one that Mum does. You can, when you wash your hands when you go to the loo, you just kind of lathers up and you rub it back in again. So that's one thing, isn't it? When you keep on putting ointments on, it will wash off. That doesn't, and I don't really know why it doesn't, but it doesn't. So if you can find an ointment that will do that, and like I say, I would go 5 times a day, so you really build up the oil space. In the eczema book, it will also tell you that I'm a big ambassador for taking magnesium supplements. Don't really want to go into the full details of whys and wherefores, except to say we don't get it naturally anymore, because unless you eat tons of nuts, I like eating nuts and they're very fattening, aren't they? So if you don't eat lots of nuts, you won't get any. Magnesium forms in fruit that ripens on the tree, and the nature of our world now is fruit doesn't. It's picked early and transported right across the planet, so it doesn't form, and therefore unless you eat really loads and loads of very dark green cabbage, and probably you have a whole new set of symptoms if you do that. But yeah, magnesium. So magnesium supplements are fantastic. You'll feel so much calmer because it's the calming mineral of the body, so you'll feel much calmer, but you'll find that the itching goes down a lot too. And if you don't fancy taking it orally, because you know what, it's interesting that it absorbs better through the skin. So what I do with my little boy is I put Epsom salts into the bath. I do 4 tablespoons of Epsom salts a night in his bath, and that's very, very calming and gives me a bit of a break at the end of the day, because he winds down very, very slowly. So magnesium is very useful to people with eczema, as is vitamin B complex. Now vitamin B complex is the fuel for the liver. I touched very lightly on the importance of the liver earlier and any stress related condition. So vitamin B complex, vitamin B doesn't absorb properly unless you take vitamin C with it. I use a brand called NutriWest. NutriWest are in the States and in the UK. They're not cheap, but they're super powerful. And yeah, so that's how I would go about doing it. So journal for a month and use your cream 5 times a day. Genuinely, I would look at getting some vitamins and minerals inside you and looking at your diet, and all of that is in this book, available on Amazon. So that's eczema. Hope it's helped you.